Today, we're exploring an animal that's a true icon of the African continent, the porcupine. It's a creature that's wrapped in some amazing folklore, but is also armed with one of nature's most incredible defense systems. So let's dig in and separate the powerful myths from the prickly reality. So here's what we've got lined up. We're going to kick things off with a famous legend about how the porcupine got its quills. Then we'll meet the real animal, get into its amazing arsenal of defenses, see what a night in its life is really like, learn about its surprisingly social family, and we'll wrap it all up by looking at its powerful cultural legacy. You know, to really get the full picture of the porcupine, we're not going to start with a biology textbook. Nope, we're going to start with a story, one that's been passed down for generations all across southern Africa. So this story begins like this. Long, long ago, the porcupine was this absolutely gorgeous creature with this incredible coat of fur. But, and there's always a but, right? This beauty came with a serious dose of vanity. He just couldn't stop bragging about how good he looked. Well, along comes a clever jackal who has just had enough of all this boasting. So he comes up with this sneaky plan. He tricks the porcupine into walking through a thorny thicket, telling him it'll make his fur even more beautiful. The porcupine falls for it, and his amazing coat gets all torn out, leaving him covered in these painful spines, which, the legend says, are the very quills we see today. It's a great story, right? A real lesson about being too proud. But what about the real animal behind that legend? Let's meet Africa's spikiest rodent for real. Okay, so this is the Cape porcupine, and this animal is a record holder. We're talking up to 24 kilograms. That's about 53 pounds. That makes it, by far, the largest rodent in all of Africa. Pretty impressive. And get this, they are incredibly adaptable. You won't just find them in one little spot. Nope, they're all over the place, thriving in everything from savannas to grasslands and shrublands, basically across the entire southern half of the continent. All right, let's get to the main event, the quills. How do they actually work? Because believe me, it's way more than just for show. This is a total masterclass in self-defense. Check out this number. A single porcupine can have around 30,000 of these sharp defenses. 30,000. That is just wild. I mean, that's more quills than there are people in a lot of small towns. But what even are quills? Well, they might look like some kind of crazy weapon, but they're really just highly specialized stiff hairs. They're made of keratin, yep, the exact same stuff that makes up our own hair and fingernails. And just like our hair, they do fall out and new ones grow right back in. What's really cool is that not all quills are created equal. They've got this awesome crest of long, flexible ones on their head and neck, then these super thick, sharp body spines that can get up to 50 centimeters long. And then on their tail, they have these special hollow quills used for making a warning sound. Okay, so let's clear up a huge myth right now. Porcupines cannot shoot their quills like arrows. No way. That's pure cartoon stuff. So if they can't shoot them, how on earth do they actually use this incredible arsenal for protection? Well, they have this really clear 4-step process. First, they puff up all their spines and their crest to look as big and scary as possible. Step 2, remember those hollow tail quills? They start shaking them to make this loud, rattling noise. It's a serious warning. If the threat still doesn't get the message, they'll start stamping their feet and making these grunting sounds. And only then, as a total last resort, they'll charge, but they charge backwards to ram those quills right into whatever's threatening them. So that's their defense covered. But what about the rest of the time? What's life like when they're not in fight mode? Let's take a look at a typical day, or more accurately, a typical night for a porcupine. Right, so these guys are nocturnal, which means they pretty much own the night. During the day, they're just chilling out underground in these big burrows. And they're amazing diggers. They build their own. But they're also super practical. If they find an old, abandoned burrow from, say, an aardvark, they'll just move right in and fix it up. Then, once the sun goes down, it's time to find food. They use those strong claws to dig up all sorts of stuff, roots, tubers, fallen fruit. But here's a really interesting quirk. They also chew on bones, not for the meat, but to get important minerals like calcium into their diet. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking an animal covered in 30,000 spikes would be a bit of a loner, right? But you'd be wrong. Their family life is actually really social and surprisingly complex. Yeah, despite that spiky exterior, Cape porcupines are definitely not loners. They're actually monogamous, so they pair up for life. They form these really strong, long-term bonds and live together in these tight-knit little family groups. And here's a great little fun fact for you. You know what a group of porcupines is called? It's not a herd, it's not a pack. It's a prickle. I mean, come on, how perfect is that name? And the babies, which are called porcupets, how cute is that, are born pretty much ready to go. Their eyes are open, and they already have quills. But luckily for the mom, the quills are soft when they're born. They harden up within just a few hours, though, so the little porcupets are protected right from the start. Okay, let's bring this all back to where we started. We went from that old folktale to the real animal, and now we can see how all these amazing traits, its incredible defense, its resilience, that family loyalty, have made the porcupine a really powerful symbol in human culture. Take the Ashanti people of Ghana, for example. For them, the porcupine, which they call kotoko, is a huge deal. It became the symbol of their military. Why? Because its whole strategy, defensive but basically impossible to defeat, was a perfect match for their own philosophy. Don't start fights, but always be ready to defend yourselves. And their motto really drives this home. Kill 1,000 and 1,000 more will rise. Wow. That just perfectly captures that spirit of resilience, of unity, the idea that together they're unconquerable. And that spirit is still alive and well today, especially with their famous soccer team, the Asante Kotoko, who are nicknamed the Porcupine Warriors. So it leaves you with a pretty cool question, doesn't it? If an animal's main thing is defense, what does it really mean when a whole culture adopts it as a symbol of their unity? The porcupine's journey from that vain character in a story to this powerful symbol of strength kind of shows us that real resilience isn't just about having a tough exterior. It's about the strength that comes from standing together. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength isn't in attacking, but in knowing how to protect what matters most.